Tamas.
Roka bellowed, his robust frame squared off against Turul, arms crossed, with only a slight turn of his head, signaling where he expected his servant to appear. His voice boomed across the enclosure, his stance exuding absolute command over the slave quarters. The muscular prisoner braced himself, his focus unwavering. His gaze remained steadfastly forward, not following the movements of the master. Steeled by resolve, he was prepared for any ordeal they might impose upon him. Shortly, the wooden door set into the fortress's stone wall creaked open. A clumsy giant figure slowly emerged, catching the corner of his eye.
Your task.
The oppressive overseer commanded, barely turning to acknowledge the approaching figure.
Yes, sir.
Came the slurred reply, the words muffled, as he lumbered closer with slow, heavy steps. This was another giant, even larger than Roka. Clad in a tattered slave loincloth and coated in grime, the hulking figure approached with a ponderous gait. It wasn't just his size that made his movement so awkward, but the daunting object he carried with both hands. A heavy, spiked weight, linked by chains. Turul felt a surge of uncertainty, watching the giant carefully balance the menacing tool aloft, ensuring it didn't swing too close to his own legs, or lose any of its deadly spike's sharpness. Upon reaching the beam, Tamas placed the weight on one end of the horizontal beam, a routine task he performed without thought. However, this time, his actions followed his master's gruff directive.
Start with 2 each for this one. Tamas.
The crudeness of the order, laden with a sense of foreboding, suggested a harsher trial than usual for this new prisoner. The young captive felt the beam's weight increase, his arm muscles bulging under the strain, a clear understanding of the cruel process dawning upon him. As another command cut through the air.
1 each for the 3rd class. Them weaklings. I reckon you ain't one of them.
The cruelty of the task became starkly apparent. This categorization not only outlined the hierarchy of suffering, but also taunted his resilience and endurance. The giant slave's tasks seemed to stretch endlessly. He retrieved the massive weights from the storeroom, positioning one at each end of the beam before returning for another. His movements were repetitive, his face devoid of emotion. Tamas worked with a relentless focus that excluded everything around him, including his master. Roka, well accustomed to the giant's sluggish pace, watched with a sinister patience. This slow, drawn-out process was a deliberate part of his tactic to amplify the psychological torment of his captives. Each prolonged moment allowed the tension and terror to build under his watchful and calculating gazes. For Turul, the added weights caused his superbly sculpted torso to tense and strain, his biceps bulging prominently, as they solidified under the effort.
Take it, Turul.
He silently urged himself, focusing intently on marshalling all his will, to stand resilient under the increasing physical challenge. The cruel tormentor approached his prisoner from behind. One hand casually brushed against a lower spike, testing its sharpness. At the same time, the other applied some pressure to the beam. It held firm, just as he expected from this prime captive. With a sneer, he remarked in a gruff, mocking tone,
You easily passed the second class. Well done, slave. Tamas, give him 3 each.
Roka commanded after a brief pause, his tone carrying a hint of malice. He increased the pressure on the beam with his clawed fingers, forcing it downward so the spikes crept ominously, closer to the muscular captive's shoulders. Then, he released it, the action serving as a stark warning. The brief menace of the spikes served as a clear demonstration of what could happen, reinforcing his absolute control. As 6 heavy weights, 3 on each side, weighed heavily on him, Turul's physical strain intensified under the unbearable load. His muscles bulged, veins stood out sharply, and sweat glistened on his skin, in the harsh noonday sun. Lack of movement, his brawny limbs began to numb, enduring only the continuous strain against the relentless pressure. His jaw set firm, teeth gritted in determination. He mentally focused on withstanding the combined assault of the weight and the oppressive heat. Roka circled his prisoner with predatory precision, clearly satisfied by the young rebel's strained reaction. He moved in closer, pulling on the chains connected to one of the weights, more to tease than to test. The other hand's fingers traced the tortuous contours of a prominent vein on the taut biceps.
Doubtless. The first-class slave.
He murmured, his tone a disturbing mix of grudging admiration and malicious intent. Closed in for a final confrontational stance, the seasoned slave master towered over the strained figure below him. He raised his burly arms, pressing them down on the overhead beam with significant force. His posture exuded authority, clearly displaying dominance and control. Leaning close, he uttered in a tone laden with crudeness and a mocking edge,
But I've got an extra 1 each for you.